Okay, so what pops into your head when someone says secret society? Like hooded figures, maybe some kind of shadowy rituals? Or is it that name that still kind of sends shivers down your spine? You know the one, the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's it.
Welcome to the deep dive.
You got it.
We're going to forget the fiction for a sec, listener name, because today we're going right into the real history behind all those like captivating whispers and those kind of fears that just stick around.
Absolutely. And you've joined us for a deep dive into the actual history behind the Illuminati.
Yeah.
We're going deep into a primary source today.
Okay.
It's this collection of documents, and it's called Einige Originalschriften der Illuminaten-Ordens.
Catchy.
Yeah, right. Well, it's German for some original writings of the Order of Illuminati.
Gotcha.
This book was published in Munich in 1787.
Okay, 1787. So what makes this so important for you and me, listener name, is where these writings actually came from.
Exactly.
We're not dealing with like rumors or later interpretations here.
No way.
These are the actual words of the Illuminati.
Straight from the horse's mouth, as they say.
There you go.
Yeah.
They were discovered in a house search in Landshut back in October 1786.
And the fact that the elector himself said, print these, really says something about their impact back then.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You can almost see it like that title page, 1787 Munich.
Hard proof.
Yeah, black and white historical proof.
Love it.
So our mission today, listener name, is to kind of cut through the sensationalism and all the conspiracy theories
Right.
that are still swirling around this name. You know, we want to understand the actual structure, the real aim.
What they were actually about.
Yeah, and the inner workings of the historical Illuminati based completely on what they wrote down themselves.
Based on their own records.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's unpack this history.
What's one of the first things that strikes you as you get into these writings, listener name? For me, it's just how much they stressed keeping things secret.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It wasn't just casual meetups or anything.
Right.
They had systems in place to make sure their activities were private.
Absolutely, one of the first things we see is this cipher.
Cipher.
Yeah, image 5.
Okay.
It's a pretty simple substitution code. 1 through 24 matches up with A through Y.
Hmm.
Did you notice anything missing there, listener name?
Oh, I did. The
Yeah.
letter Z.
Yeah.
It makes you think, was that on purpose?
Right.
Or was it just like an oops?
Yeah, was there some hidden meaning in their coded messages? It's one of those little mysteries, you know?
Totally draws you in.
It does, and they also had their own way of keeping track of time.
Oh, really?
Their own calendar, image 6.
Wow, their own calendar. Okay.
Yeah, and it was based on the Persian calendar.
Interesting.
It's described as Sizdigerdisha.
So they took those Persian month names and they used them alongside the regular Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
So their year began with Fehérwarden.
Around March or April.
Okay.
And it ended with Asfandar in February, March.
Interesting.
And get this, Asfandar could have either 29 or 30 days.
Oh, wow. Unlike our February, which is always stuck with 28. Well, except for leap years, of course.
Right, right.
But why do you think they did that? Like, what was the point of having a totally separate calendar system?
Well, I think it really shows they wanted to create their own unique culture. You know, it's almost like they were trying to make their own little world inside the bigger one.
A secret world within a world.
Yeah, exactly.
And it didn't stop there.
No, it didn't. They also did this really interesting thing with place names.
Oh, tell me about it.
They have these coded geographical names, image 7.
Coded place names.
Yeah, they took real places and gave them these secret names.
They're sneaky.
I know, right? For example, Bayern, the region where they were mostly based,
Yeah.
they called that Achaia.
Achaia.
And Schwaben became Pannonia München, turned into Assen-Regensburg, was Corinth Landshut, was Delphi, and Wien was Roma.
Wait a sec. All those names are like...
Yeah, listener name, they're all classical, you know, from ancient Greece and Rome.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to be all mysterious and historical.
I think so. And the document actually says that this list of coded names is in the handwriting of someone called Cato.
Cato.
Yeah, we think that was probably Johann Joachim Christoph Bode, but he went by Zwack in the order.
Okay, so Cato or Zwack, same guy.
Right.
Got
He
it.
did, I mean, think about it. They went through all this trouble to come up with these fake place names
Right.
that shows just how committed they were to keeping everything under wraps.
So if you were an Illuminati member and you got a letter talking about something happening in Athens, you'd know they were really talking about Munich.
Exactly.
That's so cool. It's like their own secret language for places.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about their secret codes and their calendar,
Yeah.
but who were these people?
Right. Who were the actual members?
Yeah, like who was part of this secret club?
Well, luckily, the documents give us a little peek into their membership, images 8 and 9.
Okay, good, because I'm dying to know.
We actually have this list of members who joined between 1776 and 1779.
Okay.
And it even tells us their Ordensnamen, their order names.
Order names.
Yeah, it's like their secret Illuminati identities.
Makes sense.
And here's the really interesting part. Listener name, all these names are taken from historical figures.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's like they were adopting these personas.
Oh, wow.
Maybe they wanted to channel the qualities of these famous people.
That's a cool thought. Like they were aligning themselves with these big historical figures.
Yeah, exactly.
So who do we have on this list?
Well, there's Spartacus A, Areopagita, who joined on May 1st, 1776.
Hang on, May 1st, 1776?
Yeah. That's often seen as the founding date of the order.
Oh, wow. So Spartacus was like one of the OGs.
Right.
Okay, who else?
Well, then you have Cato A joining in 1778.
Wait, Cato as in the guy who wrote those geographical codes?
The very same.
So he was a member too?
Yep. And there's more.
Okay, hit me.
You got Ajax Tiberius, Alcibiades, Solon Scipio, even Hannibal, and Tamerlane II.
Wow, they really went all over history with these names.
And it wasn't just ancient history either. Listener name, there's
Confucius.
probably Confucius.
Yeah.
And even R. Lewis, which refers to Ramon Lull, a medieval philosopher.
Wow, they were into all sorts of historical figures.
They were.
What may make of that? Like, why such a diverse mix of names?
I think it suggests that the members had a wide range of intellectual interests. They weren't just focused on one period or one type of thinking.
Yeah, they were drawing inspiration from all over the place.
They were.
Oh, and what about those letters after some of the names, like the A and the recept and stuff?
Oh, yeah, those show the different ranks or levels in the order.
So like recept means...
Receptus,
Uh-huh.
Minerval, is a Minerval, and in is for initiatus.
So they had this whole hierarchy.
Yeah, and some are marked susp, which I'm guessing means suspended.
Oh, wow, so maybe they got in trouble or something.
Could be.
You know what I like about this membership list is that it really gives you a sense of the people.
Yeah.
Like when they joined, what level they were at.
It takes them from these shadowy figures in a conspiracy theory to real individuals.
Real people.
Yeah, living at a certain time and place.
I love that.
Yeah, and speaking of shaking up the traditional image of the Illuminati, guess what?
What?
They were even thinking about starting a Windsor order.
Wow, a women's branch of the Illuminati.
Yeah, you can find that in images 5 and 6.
Okay, so tell me about this. What was the idea behind it?
Well, it's written in Zwack's handwriting,
Uh-huh.
and he lays out this idea of having a whole separate branch just for women.
Wow, okay.
And their goal was pretty strategic.
What was it?
They wanted to gather information from these women and influence them, especially women in those high-up social circles.
Oh, so they were trying to be influential in a different way.
Yeah, through the women.
That's really interesting and often overlooked.
It is listener name.
It adds a whole other layer to what we think we know about them.
Right. It really challenges that image of the Illuminati as this all-male secret society.
Yeah, it does.
And it gets even more intriguing when you look at how they planned to structure this women's order.
Okay, tell me more.
They wanted two groups, you see.
Okay.
A younger group and an older group.
So they were really thinking about how to target different demographics.
Each group would be its own separate society, and they wouldn't even know about each other.
Oh, wow. So even within the women's order, there was secrecy.
Exactly, you get this.
What?
Both groups were supposed to look like they were led by men,
Really?
but secretly they'd be run by women.
Whoa, that's some next level stuff.
Right, it's like built-in manipulation.
Yeah, it is.
And their methods for influencing these women are really revealing too, listener name.
Okay, like what?
They talked about using female instructors and giving the women good books to read.
So they wanted to shape their thinking in a very specific way.
Yeah, and they even said they'd appeal to their passions to guide them.
That's pretty clever, or maybe manipulative, depending on how you look at it.
Right. It definitely shows that they understood the social expectations and gender roles of that time.
And they weren't afraid to use that to their advantage.
Not at all.
So this proposal, even though we don't know for sure if they actually did it,
Yeah.
it shows just how ambitious they were.
Totally. They wanted to spread their influence as far as they could.
Okay, so we've talked about their structure, their members, this fascinating idea for a women's order.
Right.
But what about what they actually did?
Yeah, did they just talk or did they actually make things happen?
Exactly. Like, did they achieve anything?
Well, the documents actually have these reports on the order's progress in different places, images 7 and 8.
Oh, wow. So they were keeping track of their expansion?
They were, listener name, it seems like they were very organized about it.
I bet they were.
And of course, they use those coded geographical names.
Right. So when they talk about Greece, they really mean...
Bavaria.
Okay, got it.
And specifically in Athens.
Munich.
Right, Thebes,
Which is Friesland.
Landsberg,
Yeah.
and other locations.
Okay.
They talk about having a well-established assembly in Athens with these smaller, more focused gatherings in other places.
Okay.
They even say they have a notable lodge, 2 Minerval churches, and 1 in Thebes.
Hang on, a Minerval church?
Yeah.
What's that?
It sounds like one of their local groups,
Oh, okay.
named after Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom.
Makes sense.
It really reinforces that intellectual enlightenment aspect we've been talking about.
Totally.
And get this, they even had a house in Athens.
A whole house. Wow.
Yeah, and it had a natural history collection, scientific instruments, and a library.
No way.
Yeah, and apparently they used it for botanical studies.
That's really interesting.
It paints a picture of a group that was really into learning and science.
Yeah, it does.
But here's something else that's interesting. Listener name, they were aware that people were starting to notice them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the report actually mentions that their activities were causing and attracting attention.
Oh, they were getting a little too loud.
Maybe so. And they also claim to have disrupted the U system in Berlin.
Some of that's still coded, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't know exactly what they're talking about there.
Too bad.
But it does suggest that they thought they were having an impact on politics.
Yeah, they were making waves.
They were, and their influence wasn't limited to just organizing local groups' listener name.
Oh, really?
No, they were also making moves in politics within Greece.
Bavaria.
Right. They say they were able to get Jesuits removed from their positions as professors.
Wow.
That would have been a huge power move at the time.
Yeah, the Jesuits were really influential back then.
They were in education and politics.
So to get them out of those teaching positions.
That would have been a big deal.
It would have.
And they also bragged about their influence in academia in Ephesus.
Arlegan.
Right.
Got it.
They claimed to have gotten Arminius and Cortez professorships there.
Okay.
And when it came to education in general, listener name, they said they were getting stipends for young people at universities.
Oh, wow. So they were supporting students.
They were, and they even helped young members travel to Rome.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. It seems like they were really focused on shaping education and intellectual life.
Yeah, they were investing in the future in a way.
They were.
What else did they claim to have accomplished?
Well, they said they had control over German schools.
Really?
And that they were looking after the well-being of their members.
Okay.
They also said they were running a charitable society.
Wow, so they were involved in charity work too.
Seems like it.
Okay.
And get this, they claim to have a bunch of their members in government positions.
No way.
Yeah, they called them dikasterian.
And they said they were getting salaries and benefits because of the order's influence?
Exactly. It's a pretty extensive list of accomplishments.
It is assuming, of course, that they're telling the truth.
Right. These are just their reports, so we have to take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But even if they exaggerated a bit, it still shows how ambitious they were.
Yeah, they wanted to be everywhere.
They did listener name. They even talked about having members in 4 church pulpits.
Wow, so they were infiltrating the church too.
It seems like it.
And they wanted to get control of the Bartholomeus Foundation.
That's right. That was a foundation that supported young clergy.
Okay.
Their goal was to get Bavaria full of priests who thought the way they did.
Wow, they really had a plan for everything.
They did. It was a very comprehensive strategy for influencing society.
So we've talked about their secret codes, their calendar, their members, their ambitious goals.
Yeah.
But what about like their core beliefs? Like what did they actually stand for?
Well, luckily for us, the documents include some of the Illuminati statutes, images 1832.
Oh, wow. So these are like their rules and principles.
Exactly. They give us a window into their values.
Okay, let's dive into those.
Let's do it.
What kind of things did they lay out in these statutes?
Well, one thing that really stands out, listener name, is how much they stressed treating each other with respect.
Okay.
It didn't matter what your social status was outside the order.
You were all equals within the Illuminati.
It-
That's really interesting, especially considering how rigid social hierarchies were back then.
It is. It shows that they valued meritocracy within their ranks.
Yeah, you earned your place based on what you brought to the table, not who your family was.
Exactly.
That's pretty progressive for the time.
It was, and they also really emphasized secrecy, of course, Statutes 2 and 4.
Of course, you can't have a secret society without secrecy.
Right.
That's where all those codes and secret names come in.
Exactly. You don't want to reveal too much to the outside world.
The uninitiated.
That's right.
Okay, so secrecy and respect. What else?
Well, they also talked a lot about unity and support among the members, Statute 5, listener name.
So it was like a brotherhood?
Yeah, they wanted to create a network of people who would always have each other's backs.
Makes sense.
They also encouraged things like human rights and hospitality, Statute 6.
Okay.
And they said that members should be loyal and dedicated citizens, Statute 7.
So they weren't anti-government or anything?
No, it sounds more like they wanted to be model citizens.
But with this secret network operating behind the scenes?
Exactly.
Fascinating.
And they were big on the advancement of knowledge and progress, Statute 8.
Oh, yeah, they were all about the Enlightenment.
They saw themselves as a learned society
Okay.
dedicated to understanding and improving the world, Statute 9.
That fits right in with the whole Enlightenment vibe.
It does. They valued studying history and philosophy
Uh-huh.
and thinking critically, Statute 10.
Okay.
But they also stressed the importance of putting that knowledge into action, listener name.
So it wasn't just about reading books and having debates.
No, they wanted to actually make a difference in the world.
I like that.
And they were really into studying human nature, Statute 11.
Human nature.
Yeah, like understanding people's characters, passions, and motivations.
Why do you think they were so interested in that?
I think it was part of their strategy. You know, they wanted to know how to influence people, how to guide them.
Oh, so it's kind of psychological.
In a way.
Okay, so they valued knowledge, progress, human nature. But what about moving up in the ranks? Like, how did you become a high-ranking Illuminati member?
Well, it wasn't just about how long you did a member, Statutes 21 and 22.
Okay.
It was about effort merit and actually applying what you learned.
So you had to prove yourself.
You did, and the time it took to move up varied depending on the grade.
Makes sense.
And, of course, secrecy was still paramount.
Right.
They stressed keeping the order's existence and the identities of the higher-ups a secret, Statutes 14 and 15.
That's a lot of secrecy.
It is listener name, but that's how they operated.
So what was like their ultimate goal? What were they trying to achieve with all this secrecy and knowledge and stuff?
Well, their main concept sums it up pretty well.
A helpegriff.
Okay, what does it say?
It says that their aim was to instill true morality.
Okay.
They wanted to fight injustice and support virtue.
So on paper, they sound like a pretty idealistic group.
They do, at least in theory.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, like theory versus practice.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Their beliefs, their structure, their rules.
Right.
But the documents also have these instructions for specific members.
They do. Listener name for members named Cato, Marius, and Scipio. Images 43, 48.
Okay, so these guys were special.
Seems like they were given more responsibilities.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they were involved in recruiting new members.
Okay, so they were the ones bringing in fresh blood.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to do all the training themselves.
Oh.
The instructions say that they should direct the new candidates to someone more experienced for teaching.
Okay, so they were more like talent scouts.
Yeah, and they were also in charge of making sure everyone in their area was following the rules.
So they were like regional managers.
Kinda, and they had to report to their superior Spartacus in Athens.
Munich.
Right.
Okay, so Cato, Marius, and Scipio, they were kind of like regional leaders.
Yeah, overseeing their own little territories.
Interesting.
And the instructions also talk about specific procedures for their meetings.
Like how they were supposed to run things?
Exactly, and how to handle important documents.
Okay.
They had to keep records of their activities and send copies of their letters to Spartacus.
Wow, so they really wanted to keep tabs on everything that was going on.
They did. It shows just how organized and hierarchical they were.
It does.
And speaking of organization, listener name, they also had this very thorough vetting process for new members.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
Yeah, they had this whole list of questions they asked candidates before they could join, images 5270.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just like, hey, want to join our secret society?
Nope, they really wanted to make sure you were the right fit.
Okay, so what kind of questions did they ask?
Well, they asked things like, why do you want to join? And what are you hoping to find here?
Makes sense.
They want to understand your motivations.
Yeah.
And they didn't hold back either, listener name. They asked some tough questions.
Like what?
Well, one question was, would you still be interested if the only goal was to make people better and there were no other benefits?
Whoa, that's deep.
It is, they wanted to know if you were truly idealistic or if you were just looking for personal gain.
So they were weeding out the opportunists.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
They also ask, what would you do if you saw something bad or unjust happening within the order?
Oh, that's a good one.
Right, they wanted to know how you'd handle conflict.
And if you were truly committed to their principles.
Exactly, even if things got tough.
Wow, they really thought of everything.
They did. They also asked, can you put the order's needs before your own?
That's a big ask.
It is. They were looking for people who were truly dedicated.
Loyal.
Yeah, and they wanted to know about your relationships with other members.
Oh, okay.
They asked, will you love all members of the order and put them before everyone else except your family?
Wow, that's intense.
Right. It really reinforces that idea of brotherhood and support that we saw in their statutes.
Yeah, it's like they were creating their own little family.
In a way.
Okay, so what about secrecy? Did those questions come up?
Absolutely. They ask, will you keep everything about the order a secret?
Well, yeah, that's a given.
Right. But they also ask, do you pledge obedience to the order, and do you understand what that means?
Oh, wow, so they weren't messing around.
Not at all.
That really emphasizes the hierarchical structure they had.
It does.
And did they ask anything about other loyalties, like to make sure there were no conflicts of interest?
Oh, yeah, that was important to them. Listeners' name, they ask, are you free from any other allegiances that could get in the way?
So you couldn't be a member of another secret society or anything?
Right, they want to make sure you were all in.
Makes sense.
And you know what's really interesting?
What?
We actually have the candidates' answers to these questions. Images 83-105.
Seriously?
Yeah, it gives you even more insight into their mindset.
That's so cool.
It is, you can really see how much they bought into the order's principles.
It's almost like a job interview.
Right, but for a super secret and exclusive job.
Yeah, exactly. So after all that questioning and vetting, what happened when you finally got accepted?
Well, then came the initiation. Images 70-72.
Ooh, the initiation.
Yeah, it was a pretty symbolic and serious event.
Okay, tell me about it.
They usually did it in a secluded spot that's kind of dark.
Setting the mood?
Yeah, or at night in a quiet room.
Okay.
There would be a table with a lamp, the initiator, and some witnesses.
So it was a small group.
Yeah, and it sounds like they really wanted to create a sense of importance and solemnity.
I bet.
And during the ceremony, they would question the candidate one more time.
Really? Even after all those other questions?
Yeah, they wanted to make sure you were still on board with everything.
Okay.
And then came the oath.
The oath.
Yeah, the initiate had to swear a formal oath.
What did they promise?
They promised to be useful to the order and to be worthy of this enlightened society they were joining listener name.
Wow, so it was a big commitment.
This was the moment where they officially became a part of the Illuminati.
So it's a pretty big deal.
It was a life-changing event for some people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we've learned about their structure, their members, their beliefs, their recruitment process, their initiation.
It's like we're getting a real inside look at this secret society.
We are listener name, but there's one more thing I want to talk about.
Oh, what's that?
The inventory of items they found during that house search.
The one where they found all those documents?
Exactly. Images 108, 110.
Okay.
This inventory gives us a glimpse into some of the more practical aspects of the Illuminati.
Okay.
And some things that have fueled a lot of those negative conspiracy theories.
Oh boy, what did they find?
Well, one thing was a design for a secret lock.
Makes sense. They were all about secrecy.
Right, but then things get a little more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They also found 3 recipes written in code by Ajax.
Recipes for what?
Well, one was for a means for abortion.
Whoa, hold on.
Another was for a substance to be injected into the face.
That sounds kind of creepy.
It does. And then there's a recipe for agua tofana.
Isn't that a poison?
It is a slow-acting poison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these findings are definitely troubling.
They are.
It raises questions about what they're really up to.
Yeah, it makes it hard to believe they were just a harmless intellectual group.
Right, and there's more listening name.
Okay.
Ajax also had another recipe for abortion using these species. And they found a paper labeled secreta with a recipe that used herbae quae habent qualitatem deleterium herbs that have a destructive quality.
That's disturbing.
It is.
And they just had these recipes lying around?
It seems like it.
What else was on that inventory list?
Well, there was a half sheet that described how to spread a harmful odor in a room.
Whoa, like a poison gas or something?
It sounds like it.
That's crazy.
I know, right? And it even had a drawing of a machine to do it.
Like something out of a spy movie.
Yeah, and then there's this other COVID recipe by Ajax.
Okay.
It's called Das Slide. Petschaften abzudrucken, welches mit den Pforten geschlossen wird. Und es wird nicht rufen, wie das andere besser wusste.
What does that even mean?
It means the second, to imprint passions, which is concluded with the words, and it will not call out as the other knew better.
That's really cryptic.
It is. We can only speculate about what it means a listener name.
Yeah, what were they trying to do? Imprint passions on people?
That's the question.
And then there's that third recipe titled Ad excitandum furorem uterinum, to excite uterine frenzy.
It's a pretty disturbing collection of stuff.
It is. It really makes you question what their true intentions were.
It does, and it's especially jarring when you consider that they also had a collection of coats of arms by Philip Swack.
Coats of arms.
Yeah, it seems so harmless compared to the other stuff.
It's like they had this weird mix of high-minded ideals and then these dark practical things.
It's a reminder that even organizations with noble goals can have a dark side.
Yeah, especially when they operate in secrecy.
Right, the secrecy can create an environment where those darker impulses can flourish.
Okay, so we've gone through their structure, their beliefs, their rituals,
We have.
and even some of their more unsettling discoveries. But the documents also had some personal stuff in them.
They did. Listener named things like letters and notes, images 114 onwards.
Oh, wow, so we get to see a more personal side of the Illuminati.
Yeah, we do. There's a letter signed Zwak M. Papra from Munich dated October 30th, 1777.
Okay.
In it, he talks about his own death and who he wants to leave his stuff to.
Wow, so we get a glimpse into his final thoughts.
We do, and they're